Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Show. We are recording here on Saturday, December 20th. Barry, there's 10 days left in the year.
And I'm going to be home for the entire 10 days.
Yeah, as
So,
everybody knows, we missed our first show in probably 3 years, wouldn't you say?
yeah.
This past weekend, Barry was traveling, but he's back home, ready for the holiday season. And Barry, I was thinking about the theme this
Uh-huh.
for this week's show. You and I were talking. Um, it feels like the gift that we're going to be getting for Christmas as traders is change.
Change. I think so. I
The
think so.
calendar's going to change
hmm
for
hmm
sure. We know that, but the markets are going to change, and the price action is going to change. You can kind of feel things are sort of percolating under the surface right now. So we're going to spend this show trying to show you some areas where change is happening and some markers and clues that things are definitely changing. So
hmm
without any further delay, let's jump into it. I see you got the S&P here,
Yep.
and we've been going pretty much perfectly sideways since October. It looks like November, October.
Yeah. Well, October, we got this high that came in
Hmm.
and that squared out. And at the time, we talked about how important that high is and how it came in from a couple of different directions. Following that, we, of course, we had this ABCD down into November. So that sort of fulfilled the move down. And at the lows, the big talk was, is that it? Are we gonna, we're gonna continue the rally from here, or are we gonna go in and put a lower high? Because at the time we were waiting for the weeklies to show up with the, 1 or 2 bar counter trend. Now here we are, we're in December and we're still watching a lower high here. And if you just look at it from purely charting perspective, the high that came in, the cycle high, the one that squared out, the one that we counted on to be a high, is still in place. See that, Ben? That's the thing. No matter how sideways we are, what we've done, circles and inside out, that high is still holding,
Yep, it's still there.
right? So, and the low that followed that high is still holding. So this entire time we've been basically inside that swing. Okay, what's the first thing? Well, one thing is, when we get into a pattern where we're stuck within a prior range, or you can call this sort of a shadow. It's not, just like you're dealing in a shadow, everything's not that clear. Could we have continued on? I think we have plenty of time to do that. Could we have rolled over? Sure, we had plenty of time and reasons to do that. And now that, the Fed's out of the way, all the news is out of the way, end of the year news, whatnot. And here we are, pretty much at the exact same spot where we left in late October. So I guess for you guys, I mean, the thing to really watch is, what's coming up in the next few days, couple of weeks, let's just say. Now, along to that end, we I mean, we missed. We didn't do a show last week, but we did talk about the 68.20. And what happened was, we held for the most part, and then we dipped down, came down to visit the 67.27, which was already on the board. So you guys already had that. And we linked to that 67.27. This is the cash chart. We talked about this, the resistance level, support level that's on the board from the October highs. So we basically, came down, tested it, managed, and we bounced. So we have 2 days up, let's say 2 day counter trend, if you're calling from this high. Well, where's the clarity here, right? So we'll look at a couple of different, we'll run through our charts like we normally do for the indices. We'll look at the Dow, we'll look at the Nasdaq and the futures chart and try to get some reference points so that you have a better idea, right? So overall, if you look at this, the bigger pattern from October, we're basically compressing, right? We have We have a high, we have a lower high, and we have a low that was November, and we have a higher low, which is a type of a triangle. It's a type of a compression. Now, the one clue I'm looking at is we held it 67.27 pretty well. I would say we came down hard, bounced right off of it, and now we're pushing 68.20. I would say for the cash, if we can manage to get above, pop above here, Monday, Tuesday, I'd expect us to continue higher. And the reason being that we tested the 67.27 and we held, not just held, we bounced fairly well, a nice recovery, I would say. 68.20 is the key to watch. I think if we hold that line, we're a little bit above it, not well above it, but let's say we clear that, we manage to hang in here, and I think then the momentum's in place to carry it a little further. Now, because we did have a square, we did square out, we can never forget the highs and lows from the past as long as it's still holding, right? So here it's holding. We have to respect that. And how that would turn out is we want to watch both of these highs. Obviously, this is prime area for a false break. So that's the first thing. You want to watch for that. Very possible. The second is the fact that if we can hold above 68.20, that could give us a good launch pad to actually not really a false break, but to be able to get above the highs and hold above. And here we have, we've been terminating constantly, well, twice, right at the 7/8 level, which is 69.09. So I think this is it's an important level. And so watch that, if we can clear 68.20, we clear 69.09, then, well, we have a little bit higher to go, 7,000. And if we can clear the 270, coming three squares off the low back in April, then I think we can open up entirely the square. But we have a little bit of work to do, and I think that's why everybody's wringing their hands and a little squeezy in here because we had the 7/8, stopped it. But if we go again this time, we're probably going to go up and test a little bit above 7,000 before it's all said and done.
Barry, it
And
looks like we also have 270 in timing like January 2nd.
yes, so I mean, this square right there is the thing to watch, right? I mean, if
Yep.
we come into
Yep.
here, then I'm throwing all the flags up in the air because I think that's well, it's a
Right.
beautiful square, man. I mean,
Yeah, nice. Really,
yeah,
really nice.
especially if we do some kind of an ABCD right up into that. So that's in the works for sure. And that's January 1st. Let's see how we get up in there. If we do it earlier, sooner, we might go up and tap it, false break, come back. We can do it again. Obviously that's a really important timing point, and on the calendar day chart. So let's see how we work that out. In the meantime, watch that to the upside. So then you say, well, what's the downside? Well, the fact that we can't hold above 68.20. If we can't do that, then we have a yellow flag. Let's just say yellow light, and 67.27 should really hold. If we can't consolidate here, I mean, first of all, if we get a reversal off of Friday's high, that's a little negative. Let's just say, I'll be definitely looking for the short side. And if we take out 67.27, then I think then we have a little bit of trouble ahead of us. But that's the downside is very easy. Why? Well, we have a high, lower high, and then you would have a lower high still with the reversal coming off of this high on Friday. So downside is fairly basic, right? It's not that complicated. Upside, it's a little bit more work to do, mainly because of the 7/8. We got the 7/8s here, and we have the 270 degrees up from the low. And like Ben pointed out, we have an actual square coming up at the beginning of the year. So a lot of things to look forward to, and all of them point towards change, which goes towards our
Right.
theme today. Yeah.
Point towards change. That's exactly right.
Mhm. So that's the cash. Let's go back and take a look at This is our continuation chart. And I'm going to stick with the calendar theme. So now here, the story is 6760 area right there, 240 degrees up off the low in April. We were able to, we just like we did in the cash, we came down, we held it here. And you can see we've been talking about this on X, but you can see how on the 4 hour chart, this is pretty apparent, but we have a little bit of a expanding triangle happening within the larger compression that's also happening. So this is, messy stuff. So where's the clarity here? The clarity is that we're able to hold above 67.60. So this is positive, right? We have to go with that. Now the 68.84, we've been crisscrossing like it's not even there. So we're going to pretend it's not there, but use it as a sort of a bull bear line, right? Like a balance point. It seems to be balancing on that. And 50% of the square comes up to 7,004. So everything looks like the fact that we held the support and so forth, it just looks like we're just primed to go up and hit that 7,000 and be done with it. And following that, we can see, what the pullback is after that. And if we can settle above this level, I mean, that's where 68.84 will come into play, right? After we go up and tap 7,000, we come back, we're holding well above 68.84 or even 68.84. Well, that puts the market in a very strong position, and I think is ready to fly. And that would get us up into 72.50 is the next full square. But all that has to happen here, and the whole point of using these Gann squares and levels is to help us get through, let's just say, patterns and times that are not so clear. Dropping back to the Gann lines and squares, I mean, that's what I can come up with. We're doing pretty well. We're holding key levels, and we're pushing against other levels. And if we can manage to continue that, then the target seems to be just a little bit higher. Ben, what do you think about all that? Um,
I think it's exactly right. You got the lines marked to watch, and if we're above them, it's bullish. If we're below them, you got to look south. It's pretty that simple because otherwise, how do you decide what we're going to do in this congestion? It's impossible.
Absolutely,
If you don't
especially.
have those reference levels, it's impossible. You're just flipping a coin. You're just gambling, really.
Yep. And we've gone through these before, and we've gotten through just fine just by following the same rules, the methodology. So I don't see why it has to be different this time. So,
I mean, you point out
uh
the time period, late 24, early 25, and that's a good analogy to what's going on right now. I mean, we were in
yes,
that
yeah,
slop right in there. Yeah.
exactly. And we walked it through all the way. You guys can catch the videos, we had back then, and we walked it all the way till we gave it up, right?
Hmm.
And if you can see we had a high, then we had the
Lower
second
high.
high, lower high,
Yep.
and then we came in to do the
Little false break.
little false break before rolling over. And here we do have 3 points. We have the high, we have the secondary high, and we'll see. Not that it's going to be exact duplicate of it, but let's see what happens, right?
Exactly.
Hmm? And the point being here is, I mean, we don't have all the squares and everything set up for a year ago, but it was pretty much the same thing. We were following along our levels and lines, and basically the way we interpret it within the square, and it all sort of worked out. So I don't see why it wouldn't again, right? So, all right, very good. Well, before we jump to the Nasdaq, here's the March contract. We were looking at the December contract this whole time individually. So now March contract's a little bit fresh. This low, while it's on the board, I'm not sure if it's really the one we want to sort of pin the square on, but it's the only one we have, and I like it because the square came in fair and square, like they say, at 140 full level. So I'm gonna have to, we'll go with that low and this square till proven otherwise. So that being the case, the high came in, we came down to 216, more or less held above the old support, got right back above, and now we're just under that 50% level. Again, for the futures, we can this area becomes some kind of a area to kind of push and test, hope the resistance above. So 69.58, 69.60. This is all open for potential false break or a lower high. And the other choice is, of course, settling above it, which would be settling above this 60, 69, 50, 53, 58, settling above that. Now you can see why, because of the given pattern, this is why we have to get a couple of different scenarios. But it's not that difficult once you have pegged the, we have a lower high here, higher low, and we're just looking to see which levels can be held on the way up. And I think the levels we talked about, the contract's still fresh, so I'm going to give it a couple of days, a couple of more weeks before we really lean in on it. In the meantime, you guys have all the levels from the continuation contract. Stay with that. Let's jump to the Dow. Now, the thing with the Dow is Dow really didn't pull back steeply, right? We didn't. We continued to make higher highs. The square really didn't. The square really didn't hold for the Dow. So I think Dow's giving any clues. This one of the two has to happen, right? Either Dow has to catch up with the S&P and the Nasdaq, or they have to catch up with the Dow. Now, Ben, we talked about how funds are going into the industrials and what that all kind of portends into the future. So we'll talk about that as we go every week. But for now, the point here is, we just made a new high last week. So what's the story here? So I think it sort of feeds on the things that we saw on the futures charts, on the ES charts, the continuation charts, and the cash chart, how support was held. And if support gets held like that, and while the Dow is sort of freely moving higher, structurally very nice, this is not too sloppy, not the greatest bull market sort of footprint here, but it's not bad. It's a sloppy bullish trend, right? So, and we're continuously making higher lows. But I think this, right? So this point higher, this 47,162 was the level we were really watching. And what kind of gave it away was right there. You can see when we came back down into that to test that, we held well above it. The next low held well above it, and so forth and so on. So this looks pretty good. And 49,484 is the 50% level. Let me put that in. And there we go. So that seems like the target. That's just how it just looks like to me. And when we get there, we'll have to see. By the time we get there, if the S&P can hit some of those other levels, then everything looks good. All right, so let's move on to the Nasdaq. Coming off the low in April, seems to be the most reasonable low to work with. Again, 25,140 was the level we were watching, and we dipped below, kind of straddled it for a couple of days, and Thursday inside bar, and what's our rule? Higher the inside bar got taken out, and momentum followed through. Again, this looks pretty good. Long as we're holding above 25,140, I think it looks good. Obviously, to the downside, if we get some kind of reversal on Friday bar, that's not going to look pretty on the charts, right? That's kind of a very bearish looking reversal if we get that. But if we get that and reverse, then obviously we're dragging below 25,140. So that's the downside. So I think as long as this trend line holds, I think everything's set. We looked at the Dow, how Dow is doing okay, making practically new highs. Nasdaq might not go up and make new highs, but at least it's holding its own. We held, the big support level we were watching was this. Remember the zone back in October, November? It's up this 23,700. We
T zone.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, right. That was the zone, and what happened was, we didn't even penetrate into that. We held a little bit above it. So, which my experience is when that happens, and because the way we derive these levels, it means the market's stronger rather than being weaker. So now, and we could expect, a little bounce, and we got the bounce, came back. Here's a pullback, and now we're moving higher for now. So this is what I'm kind of seeing for next week. That's sort of the overall, flavor for my indices, right, Ben? Um, and let me know what you think
Yeah,
about this.
we'll jump in, look at the weeklies and monthlies and calendar day and
Right.
get a bigger picture of it. But yeah, that's the right area we got to get through to really get
Mm-hmm.
going again.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a quick look at the weekly. So this is the weekly SPX, and the big level target that's been on the board has been this 2069.25, 25.69.30. Basis the weekly, and for support, roughly 6,500, right? 65.13. So on that pullback, we were able to hold above that, which was, that's what we know at the time. We talked about that, and if we can hold that, basis the weekly is still in a good position, right? So okay, fine. We got 1, 2, 3 weeks up and a correction. So weekly looks a little bit tricky to me, but it doesn't mean we can't push a little higher. But watch the weekly high, um, last week's high, being able to, the price being able to get above that or not, because I think this is going to be really important. If we get some kind of inside week next week, which is surely possible given the short week and everything, that could set us up for a really interesting week the following week. And yeah, that's what I have for that. Let's take a quick look. This is a continuation contract. 65.20 was the 270 degrees up from the 2020 low, very important level. And you can see, on the pullback, we held right there. And at the time we talked about it, as long as this held, weekly's in pretty good shape, actually in pretty great shape. And we were waiting to see what the counter trend looks like. Well, the counter trend, we got 3 bars up, uh, fourth bar, outside bar, right? Not an outside reversal, but an outside bar. So it's getting a little tricky. These are, not the easiest bars to read, but push looks to be up. We're straddling the 50% of the square for the last 3 weeks. So, and this week we managed to, open and close above it. So let's see if we can hold above that. So that level is 68.78 on the continuation chart. Let's see how we do here. Yeah, that's what I got. Else. Let's take a look at this. This is coming off the low this year. The 7,007 just happens to be 135 degrees up from the low earlier this year. And that's kind of important, I have to say. And if you look at, February, we coming to 45 weeks from that low. In the meantime, the 7,000 area is also very important because 135 degrees up from that low. And if you guys notice from some of the other lows on the continuation contract, on the basis of the daily, we were coming up on some levels around 7,000 also. So, we have a number of things lining up for here. So it just seems like a target we ought to be able to hit before we do anything else. Easy to get a little bit sloppy here, yes. But let's see what the push looks like. To the downside, 66.35 is really the level. It's support level. If we decide to consolidate, so there's your bracket if we decide to do that. I don't have I don't have any 4 hours because we didn't do anything last week. So let's just move on.
What week is that square on the weekly?
That's February
Yeah,
21st.
that's one to watch.
It's definitely one to watch.
Yep.
Let's see how that pans out. I mean, that would be super
Hmm.
important,
Hmm.
especially if you can hit some number price levels at the same time, right? So, all right. So that's that. Let's move on. Let's move on to bonds. And not much, not much, other than the fact that we're operating below the square and it's looking, looking a little consolidating, if that's a word I can use. And we're holding right in the middle of the old range, And but the key thing is here, we got below 116. We're not quite hitting that, and we're kind of hovering below that. And now what I have to say is, as long as we're below 116 and a half, we could hit some air pockets, that the push is to the downside. So, let's keep an eye on that. Up until we get above 116 and a half, 116.15 or so, it's in markets in a weak position. Let's move on to the weekly. A quick look. Weekly bonds, again, we came up to the square level at 119.08. It's 144 degrees. And from there, we slowly sort of tapered off to test the 114 level, and we were there a couple of weeks in a row. And so this is really the level, right? If we take out 114, we have a big air pocket, and things could get out of hand in a hurry. But I'd expect it to sort of consolidate here for now. Again, we're below the key level on the daily. We're below the key level on the weekly. We're below so much, actually, we're sitting on top of the support level. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to crude. Crude, not much to add other than, we continue to get weaker. Obviously, after we, tapped 61 right there, this is resistance. Before that, it was support for a couple of months. Now we got on the underside of it, and now we're weaker. We're gonna let this sort of play out. I mentioned this to Ben earlier. I think the energies are gonna go in a hurry and probably on short notice. And of course, it's gonna sound like a broken clock, but I'm not, because I'm not expecting it to go tomorrow. But we're just watching this bottoming action that's happening in the weekly and the daily, and just buying some time. Let it finish up the sideways and move on to some kind of a trending situation. And that trending situation is really, if you look at the weekly, you can see how we're just sort of finishing up, flushing out these lows here, and this is on support. If you go back to 2016, 17, those highs were right up this 54 range, and so we'll watch it. There's nothing really actionable for now. Like I said, on the bull side, we need to get above at least 61 for things to sort of kick in. Up until then, we're probably going to just sort of mess around here and look for a place of value, right? That's anything you want to add to that, Ben?
No, just we got to find that spot where it flushes everybody out,
Out, yep, yep, yep. And then we're
And
not quite there yet,
no,
right?
we're not there yet. Nope.
All right, let's take a quick look at gold. Gold's been probably the easiest one to be trading and calling out because everything's worked out. We had this high that squared out, had a nice correction, came back, high or low, triangle broke to the upside, triangle broke to the upside. Now we got about 43.30. And this time, unlike the previous time, we're managing to hold, right? Not just hold, but pushing. So long as 43.30 is in place, push is to the upside. Easy enough. Weekly gold, 43.34 was a key level. You can see last week we kind of powered above that. And next time, next stop's basically, we talked about 4,500 is 45.50 is 364 degrees up from the low in 22. So I think gold looks fine. Just trade it as you see fit. Take a look at silver.
What a move.
What a move. Now we're going a little vertical here.
Just cover the name up. It could be Nvidia.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, this is great. We have to probably do a little bit of a deeper dive into the metals probably before the end of January, kind of set the
Hmm.
scope here because we've been writing
Sure.
the same thing like the last couple of years of just being bullish, bullish, bullish the metals, and sure enough, it's worked out just fine. But I think it'd be good to take a look at where we are longer term and all whatnot.
And the theme of change, we may be moving into a period of change for these too, because
These two, yeah,
you can't go parabolic forever. It just
exactly.
doesn't,
Yep,
you know.
yep. And it'll be interesting to see where we decide to settle afterwards. But for now, you guys, we're doing great. And silver 72 looks like a good attractor up here. $70, $72. Maybe push a little higher. We have um 71, 77. So I think $72 silver would be just about perfect. And I don't see why there's nothing showing that we can't get there. So let's work with that. Let me just do copper before we switch to the weeklies. So copper, this 541 was the key level we were watching, and you can see how the level was important because we came up here, we straddled that perfectly. And classic form, now we're starting to break to the upside. And we talked about if 541 is held, then 120 degrees up, this 588, 590 is going to be challenged next. So we want to see how we settle above 541, and as long as we can do that, I think the upside is the direction to trade, which makes things a hell of a lot easier. And speaking of vertical, here's a silver chart. And if we can get through this 68, which is, I don't see a big problem there. Then we got 73.66. Here's the next big resistance base is the weekly. So that's the silver.
Back to that chart for a second.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great example. Remember when it was at the 90 and we were saying, at 40, we are like, you know, if it gets above the 90, it's going to go.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And look at that example, right? We hit the 90 2 weeks in a
Boom.
row, pulled back, but didn't pull back much, and then went. Once it went, it was gone.
God, and perfect, technically perfect pullback. Bam. Catapult, catapult.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of lessons here. I mean, I passed the easy ones, don't have a whole lot to say when they're trending. But if you study them, that's really where all the big lessons are. You know? And
Agreed.
and we'll try to do that, maybe do a metal special or something.
Hmm.
Or you guys one now. So 535 on copper weekly is a level to watch. Looks like we're really pushing to hold above that. And if we hold above it, then this 593, $6 range is where we're going to tap. And copper being up at 550, this is no joke, something to consider. Might be why the industrials are also showing some muscle, as in the Dow. There's a connection there. All right, moving on to the dollar. Very sloppy, but it looks like we came down into a good support area, structural support. Now we're moving a little higher. But I think the longer it takes here, so the scraping and putting in a low, better it is in the long haul. So, let it go ahead and do that. And if you look at the weekly dollar, you can see how we pulled right back into the zone that we had marked. 97.83 is a lower boundary. And we stopped right there and reversed, and we pulled well above 98.25. Now the question is, are we going to spend a little bit more time here in the zone, or are we going to quickly, get up and go? The main thing to see here is ever since we got the flush, we've been up. We have a higher low in place now. So far, it looks like. And if this is all holding, if the zone holds, um, dollar looks fine. I think it's working out in that way. All right, now looking at the euro, we, we're 140 bars from the 2025 low, and we hit the 3/4 point, so we squared out in a sense. And looks like now we're pulling back again. 1650 is the level to watch. If we can take that out, then euro is going to be much weaker. In the meantime, for now, till we get there, as long as we're above 1789, I think that's a support level dollar hit in that zone. So I think that's resistance, and we can use that as a pivot to trade against. Okay, so that's that. Take a quick look at the weekly. Weekly, we come back to the 1654 is still support. Now we're well above it, and whatever is happening here, it's going to be done soon. And 1654 is your level to watch. Okay, so I think you guys get the idea here, and we'll just leave it at that. We're also having a little bit of a triangle starting to form. We'll watch that, continue to watch that as we go. And let's move on to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin basically been behaving pretty well. On November 21st, I called the low on that bar. And the good news is we haven't taken that low out, a month later. So the low was good. Now the question is, if we're gonna drift higher or lower from here.
The
So at the
bad news,
time,
though, Barry, the
huh?
bad news is that
Yeah,
looks like fourth wave type action,
exactly,
meaning
exactly. It does
another
look
push lower still left.
possible. Exactly.
Yep.
Yep. hmm So that's the bad news. Let's see what happens. Now, when the low came in, I talked about how we can go a little higher, get a little bounce, and then come back and sort of search out the value area down here. But you can notice, we're holding well above 83,000, so this is positive. And as far as holding that low, well, it did it for 30 days, and this is all Bitcoin can come up with far as the rally goes, right? Which we did in a couple of days, and then that was it. The rest of it's all just been drift inside that leg. We talked about that leg when you have a low and a high, and all the rest of the price action within. It's not really clear. So, like Ben said, we could easily do a fourth and roll over and flush this out before we do anything else. Or it could be a fifth failure. That's possible too. But looking at the higher lows within the bracket here, it looks like we can drift a little higher into next week. Um, and the low is holding. And of course, these fourth wave kind of price action, it's hard to tell when it finishes. So this could continue for a little bit longer. So that's it for Bitcoin. And Hang Seng, well, we're holding pretty well. We are held in this quarter square at 24,058 and 25,058. So it ended up becoming a consolidation level between that and 26,230.
Kind of looks like
Uh,
the S&P, doesn't it?
it looks a little bit like the S&P, and the key levels are also held. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens here. But this is sort of a ascending triangle that's forming. It's a little bit different. But copper prices are high, so I don't see huge issues here, long as we can hold this 25,000 level downside, right? And let's see what the bounces do. Okay, we got through it. And you're going to cover natural gas today? Some big things that you were going to talk about?
Yeah, there the
hmm
again the theme of change, where there may be some change
Yes.
there. So
hmm
for
Very good. Let
sure.
me put it back to you. We'll cover everything. And if you guys like our work, please remember to like, subscribe, and share the videos, help the channel grow. Thanks a lot. Man, talk about a key level, huh? To get stuck in of all the places.
It's
So,
really,
and
really critical.
in
When I
your
post,
case,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say, in your case, it's right below the main square,
Yeah,
which, you know,
yeah, yeah. Because I'm keying off that 2023 low,
right?
and I post like a 60-minute along with the daily of NQs every morning. Barry posts a lot of great, ES content every morning too. So make sure you follow us on X for those sort of things. And all I've been saying all week, when we're below this 360 level, which is 25,720, when we're below it, we're vulnerable to more selling. We were bouncing between the three quarters and the 7/8. Friday we pushed up, so now we're going to challenge this full square. But we just want to watch that level. If we can settle on top of it, we can go again. But if we fail, we already have, just like the S&P you talked about, we had a high and a low, and now we have a lower high, and now we're, trying to see if this is going to fail at this important spot. If we
Yep,
fail
yep.
here and roll over,
Oh boy.
minimally we do an ABCD, right, which takes us down to about here, around 23,000 and change.
Right,
Worst case scenario for the bulls is that we do a wave three and we get a big flush, a big move down. So
right, right.
next week, watch that 25,720 on a daily basis for the NQs. That is the key level.
You know what else is happening here? Uh, we have a potential Gartley forming to the upside, giving us a Gartley target,
Hmm.
ABCD to
Yes,
the
we do.
upside target, right? So
Yep.
that's a possibility.
If you set it X A B C D here, boom, there you go.
Exactly.
You got the potential move higher. So let's watch it and see. 25,720 is your key daily level. Let's take a look at the calendar day chart because I think that's also shows you where we found support. This is a little different view that we show every once in a while because it does give us some good insights, like when we're crawling up this one by one. That's a nice thing to watch and monitor. Or we're stuck on the underside of it like that. Here we came down to support just under 25,000 and we've bounced. So that's a positive, right? Basically sitting on the old highs we saw in September, October. We found support there and we bounced. We still do have this lower high. We had the high, a low, and a lower high. So we want to watch this week and see, can we take out these highs? And then if we do, see if we can challenge the highs there. But support came where we would have expected it based on the calendar day chart.
Yeah, yeah. It's good.
Let's take let's take a quick look at the weekly. The main thing about the weekly is we came down and tested that support in November and we bounced strongly off of that. We've had 2 weeks down, after this, 2 weeks up, we've had 2 weeks down. So let's see, do we put in a reversal bar this coming week? Then that could see we're going to challenge those highs and maybe get up to this, 27,000 area. Nothing bearish about this. The one thing to notice, we were talking about this before, Barry. We've done a high to high of 45 weeks from the December 2024 high to
Right.
the high
Hmm.
we've got in place in October. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's pretty significant, 45 weeks. We also have a low to high of 30 weeks. So there's some counts in there that confirm that high in addition to the square out, that we almost got. So let's watch. Let's just play it week to week here. Can we print a higher high this week and get a reversal bar? Then we can see how far the bulls can push it,
Hmm. Yeah,
into year end.
yeah, yeah.
Lastly, let's take a look at the monthly. Getting to where we're going to have a full monthly bar printed here in the next 10 days or so. We're inside, right? Not surprisingly, we had a big down bar last week that also tested support. Last month that also tested support there at 24,000, and now we're inside. So we may get a setup where we have the inside bar and we can watch the high and low on a monthly basis next month to see a clue as to which direction we're going to go. And of course we had these important monthly time counts as well. Low to high we had 36. High to high, we had 47. And again, those are months. So that's 3 years and almost 4 years. Those are not small cycles and are not meaningless cycles either. So keep that in mind. Anything you want to add on the longer time frames here, Barry?
If we look at the squares, we did square out and we had a pause after that. We didn't completely change the trend, in that sense.
Hmm.
What it looked like was some kind of a correction and a consolidation, and now we're looking to push higher. But the thing is, if you look at the weeklies and the monthlies, the trend is getting a little old, and some of these numbers are starting to show up on the weekly, monthly basis. So we have to sort of, keep an eye out for those things.
We just have to pay attention because
Yeah, yeah.
those time
Now,
counts are meaningful, right? They are.
yes.
It doesn't mean everything has to turn on a dime. It just means you pay attention and then start looking for signs that give you clues as to whether it's having that effect or not.
Right. Exactly.
It's just like when we hit on a 90 square or a 45 or a 144, you don't immediately change your position, but you definitely take notice and say, okay, is there any changes going on?
Hmm.
The other thing, Barry, I didn't mention at the beginning of the show. We have a Rebel Yell tomorrow, Sunday. On the same day, we have a Gann natural cycle, which is the winter solstice. So put that into the mix for change as well,
Yeah.
right? Those are proven cycles over the long term that when they come in, you've got to pay attention. You got to start watching the price action. Is there a change in character? Because
Hmm.
those markers and those hits oftentimes will bring that. So we've got that to throw into the mix as well.
Right.
All right, if there's nothing else there, let's take a look at everybody's favorite crypto, Bitcoin. And I love how this thing is so harmonic and it really reacts to the squares. I mean, look where we've been probing the lows here, right on this 85,000 area, that it's the 270 up from the placement of the square. And we
Hmm.
talked about that when this high came in. We said, if we start losing these levels, this is where we're going to filter down to. And now we can say if we lose 85, like because we were talking about when Barry was looking at it, this looks very, fourth wave-ish sort of choppy. It's bullish that it's staying on top of 85. But if we do get stuck below 85, we're heading down to the other area we talked about, which is this 73,000, which would not only be the 50% of the square, it's also this, structural support from the highs over here. So that is a possible path. We could find support here. We could do a false break. We could do a failed fifth, and then we could start turning up. But we'll know because we're going to hold over 85 and we're going to stay on top of this. And that'll tell us that, okay, now we can push and start seeing if we can work on attacking this 96,000 level. That call in real time of you calling the high was fantastic, though. Look at that. Look at that move.
And the low so far.
And the low so far.
So
Maybe
let's
you
see.
gotta maybe you gotta start day trading crypto, Barry.
Man, it's getting there. It's getting
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's take a look at the higher time frames. Let's look at the weekly and see what the weekly shows us about Bitcoin. Look at
Look
the
at that.
key. Yep,
Hmm.
look at the key level that we're sort of wrestling with here.
Hmm.
For now, 5 weeks we've been crisscrossing 89,000. That tells you there's a battle going on, right? They're trying to decide which way are we going to go with this. Which
Right.
direction is going to be the stronger. And right now it's unknown. We haven't been able to clear above it and we haven't been able to clear below it.
I
So
mean, we broke
until
all the trend lines.
we did break all the trend lines,
Hmm.
until we can clear this level though, we're still, if you're looking weekly basis, we're still undecided as to which direction we're going to go. And
Right.
it's pretty damn important too, because if we clear it to the upside, it opens up 107. If
Hmm.
we clear it to the downside, it opens up 70.
Yep. Yep.
So there's a big move coming out of here. And maybe we keep tightening this thing up and get a real, you know, weekly symmetrical triangle
Mm.
that then breaks and goes. We'll see. We'll
Yep.
see how it
Yep.
plays out.
Hmm.
But weekly basis, that's your key level to watch, the 89,000 area. Let's take a look at the monthly. Monthly shows a different story, right? And again, here's a good example of the battle at a level, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 months we crisscrossed it. As soon as we got stuck under it, look at the move in that month. And that's kind of shows you when these key levels, when you
Yeah.
see battles at these key levels, just wait till it clears out, wait till it gives you that clarity of, okay, we're stuck under, and then you can play the short side, or we get stuck on top, then you can play the long side. And here it was a similar thing. Like we were crisscrossing around 111, 130 was the upside, or 93 was the downside. And when we got stuck under, it became pretty clear which way we were going. Now we're trying to get stuck under 93. If we get stuck under 93, then it's 74. So 93 is your key level to watch on a monthly basis right now. Otherwise, it's, pretty simple. I love this 36-month count we got going into that high.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll watch that and see if we get, repetitions of that going forward from different highs and lows, 36, because that's a pretty good one. Anything you want to add on the bigger time frames on Bitcoin?
No, we're good. I think you covered all the angles, and let's see how we do here. I mean, the critical, holding this level here is the main thing here at hand now, because that's going to
Hmm.
open up upside or the downside.
Absolutely. That on the weekly one, especially, right? The 79, or I'm sorry,
Mm,
89,
exactly.
89.
That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the key.
Because once
That
that momentum, whatever which way the momentum goes, then we can follow through. But
yeah,
right
we'll
now,
get a good push out of
yep,
that.
yep.
All right, let's jump over into the commodity world. It's been a couple weeks. There's been some changes there, and changes are coming. So highlight review the ones that I wanted to highlight for your attention, because I think we're going to get some moves out of these. The first one is beans. So a couple of weeks ago, we were up here in beans, and we said, all right, guys, if we lose 1125, we're going to see a bigger correction. We did have a square out here, and we said, so let's watch a correction potentially taking place here. So far, the correction is fairly bullish, right? It's probably a little
Yeah,
steeper than the bulls would want, but look where we stopped,
but
right?
it's a
The
normal
bull,
check back, back against
yeah,
the breakout level.
we're checking it back to breakout level. We're above the full square at 1035. So I mean that is a normal bull market pullback, right? Now, if we keep going down and we keep seeing weakness, we did have a nice reversal on Friday, daily reversal. So let's see if that can catch some traction. But if we get stuck under 1035, then it's a different story. Then it sort of looks like the party ended and now they're running for the exits. All right, let's take a look at the weekly. Weekly, you can see that breakout, that check back of the breakout, even it's even more important. And so weekly basis, 1060, we really, really want to watch, because if we lose 1060, we're just right back into that year and a half, 2 year range. So this is a pretty big spot here, 1060 on a weekly basis on beans. Weekly reversal would be nice next week. So let's see if we can take out the highs from this past week in the coming week. That would be signal we had a nice test and a weekly reversal. Let's take a look at the monthly. Monthly, it's another view of the same thing. Obviously, we've got a down bar here coming off the high of the month of November. So now we want to see, can we hold this level and then turn and get a monthly reversal next month? The 5/8 level here is around, yeah, it's around that 1060, 1058. So 1058, 1060 is super important on a weekly, monthly basis here. Anything else you want to add on beans?
Well, I think this is exactly the time to watch it,
Mhm.
because we had the breakout. Now this is a check back, and well, let's start trading this.
Yeah, because if we
Yeah.
get a reversal, you can get a super strong move out of here, right?
Hmm.
And that's
Remember,
those are
this low is coming into your key cycles also.
absolutely.
So, um,
Yep. Watch it.
hmm.
That's the key. Watch it and
Yeah.
see if we get the setup. And I wondered why we were getting so many of these, because I have one, two, three, four, five different commodities to talk about this week
Hmm.
as we come into the cycle. It's very interesting timing, isn't it?
Yep. Yep. It
Okay,
works.
here's the next one. Sugar. Sugar, we talked about coming into this low where we had a nice daily square from the July low this low, July high into this low was 180 by 190. So that it was not 180 by 90, sorry, not 190. So this low, and it did a little false break. We got a push up off of it. We did a tiny ABCD, which I'll draw in. I didn't want to show you that because I wanted to show you we did on Friday get a daily reversal. See that reversal
Hmm.
bear opened at the low, closed at the high,
Hmm.
And look at this little, you can even see it on the daily. You can see it better on the 4 hour. But we did a little ABCD down into this low. See that?
There we go. Yep. Sure do.
ABCD into the low, and we got a nice reversal on Friday. So to me, this is the first leg was up. Here's the second leg. We could catch a nice move coming up here off of that reversal on Friday. So let's pay attention to sugar. Watch it Monday, Sunday, Monday. See what kind of price action we get. If we make a higher high another day, we could be seeing a nice move here in sugar starting. Let's give you a look at the weekly. Here's your weekly. Similar picture. You can see that you can almost visually see the false break, right? Just a slightly lower low there at that low.
Yep.
Then we got
Yep.
the move up to 1537, resistance at the half square, couple 2 week pullback. Now we want to see take out 1537 and the party's on a weekly basis.
Mhm.
But this is how it goes, right? First, if you look at the 4 hour, the 4 hour is even nicer to look at because the ABCD is more spread out, and you can see how it moves along from time frame to time frame as the bullishness or bearishness filters through. In this case, it's sort of setting up the bullishness here.
Yep.
Here, if we take out these highs, then we have a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high on a weekly basis.
Yeah. And once that trend line breaks, it's game showtime.
Yeah, and the trend line is right there at 1537. So it's all
Mhm.
right there. Breaking 50% of the square, structural resistance, and the downtrend line on a weekly basis, then we'll be rolling there. And here's your monthly. Monthly's obviously furthest behind. So far, we have an inside bar. If we get some strength this week, we could have a monthly reversal. So that's what we'll be watching for. 1599 is 50% of the square. So that's the monthly number to watch. I'd focus right now on the daily. First thing we want to do is add on to the reversal on Friday and then get above this 1561. Anything else you want to add on the sugar?
No, I think we're good. I think you pointed out the key things and set up what's clean. This is the time to start watching
Yep. Let's
sugar
go.
and beans both
Yeah,
so
yeah.
far. Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. All right. So what do we have in cocoa? Well, we talked about this thing looking bullish when we had this square come in and a
Hmm.
false break at the low.
Yep.
We got the first move up. Now we've gotten a pullback. As long as we can stay on top of 5700 and get a reversal, I think we could see a move up to seventh. I don't think this thing's going back to, the highs here. This seems like a pretty significant high. We squared out. We had a false break. All the things happened here. But we could certainly see a move from 5,700 to roughly 71, 7,200 up to here to the 50% of the square.
Hmm.
So this
At
is
least in
looking like,
ABCD.
yeah, this is looking like some sort of tactical trade. And it's setting up where, like you said, it could do an ABCD, could do some sort of, strong push up into the 71, 72 area because you can see there's going to be a resistance here, not only from the 50% of the square, but these lows and this whole structure here. So let's watch it and see. It could set up for a short-term tactical trade.
Yeah.
Let's look at the weekly and you can see what we're talking about. So 5,700 obviously important on the daily. I showed you that. It's important on the weekly too. If we can hold above that level, but again, 6,900, 7,000 certainly seems possible, which is a hell of a move from 58, 5,700. And then let's take a look at the monthly, give you the quick monthly view of that. Monthly 5,900 is the key, and we've been crisscrossing it for 3 months now. So sitting on top of that, getting up in here, look at where target points to 7,000. So 6,900 to 71,
Hmm.
7,200 is a decent target here, if we get that daily setup. So this is a tactical trade saying
Hmm.
this first leg might be down. I mean, this second leg could take us up into here as high. but I know I'd be taking some profit here and then just leaving runners if we do get the move. That's cocoa. Any comments on cocoa?
No, looking good. Good timing.
Okay.
Potential reverse head and shoulders,
Hmm.
right? See that? Go there.
Yeah, that's true. I see that.
Hmm.
All right, let's go to the next one. Next one we want to look at is one we've been riding for months and doing longs and shorts and all kinds of things, and that's coffee. So profits have been taken on the shorts. I think we could come a little further down into here and sort of bottom in here next week. If we do, I was talking with Barry in the middle of the week, we could have a nice move up, similar to what we did early this year, where we made a high, pulled back, and then pushed up again and made a lower high. So what I'm looking for now is to see, do we put a bottom in here? What kind of rally? Do we do a nice ABCD up like we did here? ABC. If we do an ABCD up into a lower high, this is when in February we'll want to load the cannons for that. But as far as the short goes, this next leg that we were playing, I think it's pretty well played out. If we hold this 330, this full square at 335, which is 180 degrees, then we've definitely had it play out. If we go down and get stuck under again, there'll be another move to lower. But the weight of the chart is saying lower, just this leg seems to be done. And now we're going to be looking for the next setup, potentially for another short in coffee, in February.
Hmm.
Let's give you a little view of the weekly and you can see how it's playing out. We were talking about that, 380 level is super important. Look at on the weekly basis. When we get stuck under 380, look what happens. Boom, boom, boom.
Trouble. That's what happened.
That's exactly trouble if you're long. Here, 331 is going to be support. 358's the number it's got to get over to sort of come back up here and test. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if into February we get some sort of bounce into this 400 level. And if we do, it'd be a really nice setup for another short.
Hmm. Hmm.
And here's the monthly. Monthly 400 was the key. This month, obviously, we've been below that, so the pressure's been downside down to this 330 area. Again, we'll watch and we'll see. This is more of looking at the 4 hours and the dailies to trade because we're trading it tactically here. This is a nice move. Now we're looking to see, okay, what's the next good risk reward setup we're getting? The risk reward shorting from here is not good. If we get stuck under 335, then it's good again, right? Because we know
Right.
we can
Hmm.
short against that.
Yep.
Here it's too much risk, right? Because we would have to be shorting against 380. So
Yep. Yep.
let's see the next setup. Anything else to add on coffee?
No, we're good to go. Good.
All right. Let's go to the last one, which is our old friend, NatGas. Now, why are we talking about NatGas? We've been bullish. We were bullish all through here. We saw this setting up. A couple weeks ago on the last show, we said, hey, we did 90 up
Hmm.
and be careful. There should be some sort of pullback from this August low to this high was 90 degrees. And we said, you got to watch that. We could get a pullback. And boy, did we get a pullback. The pullback so far is okay, right? Super bullish would have been holding above 490, right? Because that's the previous highs over here from over here. But we sliced through that. We sliced through the 50% of the square here. And so far, we're finding support above this full square.
That's a good
Uh,
level too.
it's a very good level, because this is where highs were previously. So, and you could say it's over the breakout. So holding here could be bullish. I'm a little bit cautious, and I'll show you why when we go to the the weeklies. Here, as long as we're above 377, we should be able to push back to 430. If we can get above 434, then we can push back to, just under five, this 490. So that's a potential path we have to watch. Now, here's why I want you all to be cautious and and take note. I noticed in studying this that this commodity likes to do 45s and 90s in terms of cycles, right? Here we had low to high of 90. Here we had low to high of 40, 45, 46 in this case, high to low of 90. If we take a low in February of 2024 and run it out 90 weeks, guess where we are? We're in a position where this could be a 90-week high
Good point.
from
Yep.
from the
Yep.
last low.
Hmm.
Does that mean we have to collapse from here? No, but that's a pretty sharp move after making that high, right? And we're pulling back to 370. If we get stuck, if we pull back and get stuck under 370, this is done, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
this 90-week cycle had its effect. You also got to be concerned that after a 90 like this, you could put in a lower high and then be heading lower. So we want to watch any rallies coming up. Do they put in a lower high? Does it fail at 50% of the square? If we can't make a higher high here, then this 90-week cycle may be in charge.
Hmm.
So we got to watch it. The other thing we were talking about, Barry, is here's your potential three drives, right? One, two,
Mm.
three. And they're not bad. They're fairly symmetrical, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
So I would put Nat Gas on the caution list. I would be very careful and keep a not that you don't with Nat Gas anyway, keep a tight leash on it on any longs
Yeah.
because this looks like that could have been a significant high. We'll
And if we
see.
hold it, and if we can hold it 370, that's actually quite bullish.
Yes,
If
but
we hold the 370.
if we hold the 370, then
Hmm.
it means we're sitting on top of all this structure, all this
Hmm.
back here, you know. It's a
Yep.
very
Yep.
important level. And then we just got to say, okay, let's not make a lower high here. Let's push, let's build. And maybe that's what the chart needs to do. Just build, 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 and then go again.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's not necessarily 100% bearish. It's just, again, take notice because we put in a low to high of 90. So
Exactly.
we got to watch that. Let's just quickly look at the monthly. Monthly key number here. And the key thing we're working on here, we're working on an outside reversal on a monthly basis. So we got to watch that as well, right? If we in fact do put in the outside reversal and the 90 week, that's a lot of evidence. You got to pay attention to it because an outside reversal on a monthly basis is no joke.
Hmm.
Obviously, we have another 10 trading days, so we could close anywhere and it could just be an outside bar and then it's not as significant. But if we do actually print a monthly outside reversal, you got to take notice of that. So that's the reason for the alert and the caution on this. Otherwise, like we talked about, above 370, we still have possibilities and odds favor bullish outcomes there. Anything else you want to add here on that gas?
Now we're good. I think we all know all the levels now. So.
All right, well that's it
Hmm.
from commodity land. You can see the theme of the show was change. We have cycles coming in this weekend that support change, and we have chart patterns and price actions that supporting change. That's not a bad thing. It means opportunity. So let's pay attention. I know everybody's going to go into holiday mode, and it's just like the market to have major changes happening right during this setup, right, where most people
Yep.
aren't going to be looking. So if you can, I mean, listen, your families and your friends and your loved ones are first, but if you can, keep an eye on the markets because there may be some very big opportunities that are starting to set up in the next couple of weeks. I don't know what our holiday schedule is going to be, Barry. We haven't discussed it. We may or may not record over the holidays, but I guess we'll just see as conditions warrant. Um,
I
but
think
if
we'll be able to do it. I'll be home, so that's
Okay, good. Yeah,
if you
I'm
have
not
time.
traveling either, so that's good. I'll be around. We'll be able to do it. But if in case we don't talk to you or record before Christmas, we want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a safe and happy holiday season. And we'll see you on the next show, hopefully before
Mhm.
Christmas.
Sounds good. Good job. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.